This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, let's get to the weekend review here on the WWE Podcast. It is Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here as we are getting closer and closer to WrestleMania, about a month away. How does that happen? And then we go into the post-Mania depression. We see big stars leave, and we hit the reset button all over again and look forward to WrestleMania 41. And the question this year, though, is does The Rock continue past WrestleMania 40? If he's playing the long game, I would imagine he does. So while his typical schedule would have him disappear, as a lot of big stars do after WrestleMania 40, it's likely that he maybe takes a month or two off, but will probably begin his program with Roman Reigns right away after it is assumed that Roman Reigns drops his belt to Cody. And then we're off to the races with Rock and Roman for WrestleMania 41. So, but before we get there, because that's a long ways away, we have a lot to discuss. A lot of things happened on SmackDown and things that have established what WrestleMania is going to be for main events on night 1 and night 2. And it looks like Roman Reigns is going to be main eventing both nights. The tag team match that we knew was coming at some point looks like it's happening on night 1. It is happening on night 1 because Cody is going to accept the challenge. Now, The Rock on SmackDown was in another stratosphere when it comes to his character. I really have to thank the Cody fans because I really do believe that they are solely responsible for not only changing the main event from The Rock versus Roman to Cody versus Roman, but now we get a brilliant tag team match that has a lot of implications, and we'll get into that. But we also get a heel Rock that, to be quite honest, is much more entertaining than his babyface version of himself. And it forces Dwayne Johnson to not just kind of go through the motions of his typical return persona, which is Dwayne kind of playing a guy he used to be, he used to be back in the early to mid 2000s. It's Dwayne having to dig deeper than that. He can't just turn on autopilot. He has to go all in with this character. And he is. I did see the promo he cut, the 21-minute promo on Twitter. It was absolutely awesome. Now, it was slow in some parts. Did it need to be 21 minutes? Probably not. But you know what it did? It showed us how good The Rock can be as a heel, which I think is more close to who he is as a person than he is actually as the Dwayne Johnson smiling kind of, entertain me type of sing-along version of The Rock, which is fun, but this version has been too long coming. And the quote of the entire segment that he had on Twitter was, talking about running over Cody's goofy ass dog. I mean, God, that was great. And then coming out on SmackDown in his silk shirt, even a better throwback than it was last week, and coming out there and looking like The Rock. It's not like it looks like, look at him, you're like, hey, he's aged, right? He has, but not 20 years. I mean, you take Rock 20 years ago and put him against The Rock now, other than a shaved head and a little bit more wrinkles, it's not that much of a difference. It looks like he's aged maybe 10, not 20 years. So obviously he takes very good care of himself, but this is The Rock of old. And you hear The Rock's reaction. The people aren't booing when he comes out. They realize how big of a moment it is to have The Rock in your city. And then talking about the crackheads. I mean, when is the last time WWE, any wrestler has overtly mentioned any kind of drug on television? I mean, they have brought up prayers, which is obviously a religious tie, right? You stay away from religion and politics, and if it's PG, you stay away from drugs and sex. It's just what you do if you're PG. But they are towing the line here and overtly mentioning crack and then having the crowd at the very end say, now go home and smoke some more crack. I mean, it is awesome. How can you hate this character? I mean, if I'm live in the arena, I'm not booing this guy. This guy is, to me, a mega babyface. Now, he did acknowledge Roman Reigns, which I think either if he's going to turn on Roman, he has to get Roman to buy all in, to sell his entire being into Roman, that he is truly, that he's truly invested in Roman. But if you noticed one thing in that promo on SmackDown, The Rock did put up the L instead of the 1, but eventually his hand transformed back to the 1. Now, what does the L mean? A loss at WrestleMania for the 1. I mean, probably the L stands for, you'd think, losing. But more importantly than that, with The Rock doing his L 201, was Paul Heyman looking at The Rock doing this. Paul Heyman, if there's a freeze frame of it, as Rock is holding up his hand, there is a freeze frame of Paul Heyman evilly or devilishly looking at The Rock as he's putting up this hand gesture. So that to me is a sign that maybe Roman could attack The Rock in kind of a, first blood. Who's going to draw first blood? Who's going to turn on who first? And let's get off the first shot. It's possible, but early WrestleMania prediction here is based on what's at stake in this tag team match that Cody will accept. Let's be real. I believe that it's going to be a Rock Roman victory against Seth and Cody, because it does a couple things. One, it gets The Rock a victory, Rock and Roman a victory, which you would think that would solidify their bond. There's no friction. They just won. And it makes Cody now have to fight even harder uphill to defeat Roman Reigns. And if it's bloodline rules, it essentially is a no DQ. I mean, they can label it a street fight. They could label it anything they want, and no disqualification, no holds barred. It's a no rules, right? No disqualification. That's all this is. Labeled as bloodline rules. I don't have a problem with that. It's fine. But that means anything goes. The Rock can interfere. Solo can interfere. Jimmy can interfere. Paul Heyman can interfere. Anybody can. But that opens the door for help for Cody Rhodes. And the more that I look into this, and the more that I hear other podcasters and wrestling fans talk and show me evidence, it looks very much like we could see Stone Cold Steve Austin come to the aid of Cody Rhodes. And it, to me, would be a massive moment. Now, again, I'd like there to be some kind of motive for Austin. I don't want Austin coming out there. I mean, I would accept it because it's awesome. But I would like there to be some at least loose reason for Austin to come out there and to help Cody Rhodes. Right now, there's just nothing that I can think of. I know there was an emailer on my show, I think a couple weeks ago, that was trying to provide some kind of evidence as to why Austin would interfere, but maybe they don't care. Maybe they just say, hey, Cody comes out last week on SmackDown and says, you may have help, but so do I, and leaves it there. I don't want to hear Austin's name. I don't want to see Austin until WrestleMania. To me, that's where you reveal him in a dire moment when it looks like Cody's getting beat down. The glass shatters. Austin clears the ring. Stunner on Solo. Stunner on Jimmy. Stunner on The Rock. And he leaves. Doesn't touch Roman, but just leaves. Clears the deck. And next week they are in Dallas, and all four men are going to be there. So there was other evidence too when The Rock pointed to the back during his promo and said there is not a single man back there that can stop The Rock. Really? I mean, does that not beg for the glass to shatter? It does. Now, the danger of this is that it could, if and when Roman and Rock win the tag match that allows this no disqualification match, The danger of it is this match with Cody and Roman could be severely overbooked and overthought. And just too many false finishes, too many people involved, too many hands in the pot. It does leave the door open for that risk. And it could happen. But I think the upside is a better story to tell, since we're all about finishing stories, for Cody to lose on the Saturday WrestleMania, realize that, oh my God, I have the whole bloodline to deal with. What am I going to do? Now he has not just Roman, but everyone in the bloodline to face. And it's going to be an uphill battle, to say the least. And maybe Seth Rollins gets taken out later in that night, so he can't come out and help, right? Maybe Drew, quote unquote, injures him, takes out his back. I mean, something like that. So you don't even have Seth to come out and help, or if he does, he gets beaten down quickly. And then you have a John Cena or Stone Cold come out and help clear the deck. And that's right after you see Austin deliver stunners. Cody Rhodes hits the crossroads on Roman Reigns. 1, 2, 3, new champion. Without Austin's help of touching Roman, that's the key that I've been keeping on my plate, and I continue to be behind that. Is nobody should help Cody beat Roman. They should just level the playing field of the bloodline. That's it. Nobody touches Roman. Now, if they want to touch Roman after the match, sure, hit a couple stunners. That'd be awesome. But I don't need Cody's major title victory being kind of, I guess, devalued by having an AA and a stunner hit on Roman. And it's just, that's not this kind of title change here. Not this magnitude. So that's my thought. But welcome to the WWE podcast, everybody. I wanted to get that right out there now. I had so much, and I still have so much more to say about this in the Rock promo, and a little bit more about WrestleMania, and so we'll dive into that a little bit later. But I want to welcome a new patron, and welcome, Loops Valdez. Welcome, Loops. I really hope that you enjoy everything in the ad-free version of our show, as well as an exclusive After Dark show that I actually hosted last night. I posted on the NXT Plus and Above category, if you're interested. It is not a wrestling-related topic, so beware. It may be a little bit controversial, even though it shouldn't be. So check that out if you're interested. And usually After Dark is not hosted by me, but this one was a little bit different. I needed a place to vent that was not on the free feed, and something not about wrestling. I think I'm going to try to keep on the non-free feed behind the paywall, because I don't want this show to devolve into, chaos, which it very easily could. I've already set off and triggered so many people with just my basic comments about men and women, and people just lose their minds. All of a sudden, we've just lost touch with reality. But that is for the After Dark that you guys can go check out on the Patreon side of things, or Apple Podcasts. If you don't want to join Patreon, Apple Podcasts, I did post it for the subscriber side over there as well. All right. So let's continue here. Let's continue a little bit more with SmackDown as we normally do. And, one thing getting lost here in the sauce is Bayley. Now, if we've forgotten, I think we're old enough to remember, Bayley did win the Royal Rumble. I mean, her story is getting lost, and it shouldn't be, because it's a fun one. And it got really good this week, too, with the tag team match with Dakota Kai and herself versus the Kabuki Warriors. I thought that the match was fine. It wasn't about the match, though. It was about Dakota Kai turning on Bayley. And I had a feeling this would happen. I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking. You can go back and listen. I predicted that Dakota Kai can't be trusted. And so now she's officially with Damage Control against Bayley. Bayley is now in a 4-on-1 situation. Bayley's going to need some help. Now, where she's going to get that help, how she's going to get that help, I don't know yet. But she has to have somebody to help even the odds, or if not 1, 2 people, or better yet 3 to really make it 4-on-4. So we're going to have to see how that all pans itself out. But Bayley getting duped by Dakota Kai. Bayley then realized what happened and gets frustrated with herself for trusting Dakota. and the beatdown ensues. Io Sky getting, a shot in, of course. This is just really good storytelling. I mean, the crowd was behind Bayley. The crowd wants to see Bayley overcome Io. I do too. And I feel bad for her because not only is this obviously not going to be a main event, neither is anything else other than the Bloodline story going to be a main event for WrestleMania, which, yes, it is a big downside, which means no women's match is going to be a main event. The world title match isn't going to be a main event. I could be wrong, but based on the fact that this tag team match is night 1 with The Rock returning to wrestling and night 2 has to be Cody Roman in the main event, I just don't see any other way for night 1 to not be that tag team match. I mean, I guess you could make a case for it, but there's a stronger case for The Rock to be, in main eventing night 1, given he's not wrestling on night 2. So it's something to consider that, sure, it's possible that the women could main event night 1. And even if the women were going to, it wouldn't be Bayley, Io. It would be Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. So not looking good for the women to main event WrestleMania this year. And neither is the World Heavyweight Championship or the United States Championship or the Tag Team Championship like it did last year. Looks like it is a all Bloodline main event for WrestleMania. That's not confirmed, but seems like we're trending that way. So back to this story with Bayley. I think it's overachieving in a lot of ways, but it's being overshadowed at the same time. I think fans are invested. You hear the crowd. The crowd is invested in what Bayley's doing. The crowd is behind Bayley. Bayley hasn't been a babyface in 5 years since she unceremoniously destroyed the Bayley Buddies on during her entrance, which was a lot of fun to watch. And since that time, she's essentially been a heel. And her and Sasha Banks, I remember during the pandemic, really helped carry the women's division. They were a 2-woman power trip. If you remember that, I mean, it was one of the things I do remember during the time that no one wants to remember were her and Sasha Banks. And I remember that they were a lot of fun. They were dominant. They were great heels. I remember they had 3 championships at one time. They had all the gold. And now we have Bayley back in a main event. Well, in any other pay-per-view, a main event spot. And it's just kind of, I don't know if sad or unfortunate for her that the timing is such that there are so many other big matches at WrestleMania that people aren't really talking about Bayley Io that much. And I think it needs to be discussed a little bit more because, again, it's deserving. The crowd live seems to be into it. The story is compelling. It is a very easy to understand story as well. Deception on top of deception. Bayley not being at the top of the women's division in years and being in a heel group, and then the crowd ready to embrace her. She wins the Rumble, and now we're ready for Io to drop the belt. I mean, people have been ready for Io to drop the belt since she essentially won it because they've done nothing with her at all. She's been a very boring champion, and it's not her fault. It's the fault of creative. I mean, it's creative. They have done nothing with her. So Bayley has to win at Mania. She just has to. It's just a matter of who comes to her aid to even the odds, much like Cody and the Bloodline. Who comes to Bayley's aid? Or how many people come to her aid to take out Damage Control. So that'll be fun. And, some other things that just side notes while I'm thinking of it, because I'll forget. Charlotte Flair has been really kicking ass in her recovery. And yeah, it's a month till WrestleMania. And I'm not saying she's wrestling in a match. But I don't think it's outside of the possibility that she could show up and maybe perform one maneuver. I mean, I'm not saying the figure 8. That's a lot of strain on her knees. But it's not outside. I'm telling you, if you don't believe me, go look at her stuff. Go watch her Instagram. Go watch her Facebook or wherever I think it's Instagram, where she's posting. It looks like she's not injured. Now, obviously inside, we don't know what kind of pain she's still dealing with. We don't know what the x-rays look like. I'm not saying she's ring ready, but I'm just saying I think just with my eyeballs looking at her progress, it looks to me like she could do minimal things at WrestleMania. Minimal. If not just show up. Just show up and distract somebody or come out at the end of the match. Like, I mean, something to you just have an impact at WrestleMania 40. And I hope she actually has that moment. Now, on the other side, CM Punk. There's rumors of CM Punk refereeing the match between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. There is a rumor on that front. And again, I would put that one less likely than Charlotte. You know, he seems to be still very much on the mend, and a month is not going to be enough for him to use his arm even to count a 3, much less get involved in some kind of way. But he has said that, you know, he will probably make a WrestleMania 40 appearance. His mouth still works, which is true. And so he could still distract somebody from a victory, cost somebody a world title match. I mean, he is coming after Drew based on what happened. So unlikely, but I guess still possible. I'm not trying to start rumors, but just things that, I mean, we've all seen. You don't believe me? Go look at the reports, right? Like, we all see the same sources that we all get the same information from. It's in the universe of possibility, but I'd put Charlotte Flair's appearance at a higher likelihood, at least in person. So just wanted to put those side notes to you guys before I forget. Nothing to do with really anything that happened on TV this week, but still. All right. Let's continue here. And we'll talk about, my God, by the way, that segment with The Rock was 40 minutes, but I didn't care. I didn't. Okay, let's talk about another women's match here. Tiffany Stratton and Naomi. Tiffany Stratton beats Naomi in 9 minutes. And I feel conflicted about this. Not because the match wasn't good, not because I am enjoying Tiffany Stratton. She feels like she belongs right away. The crowd is behind her, even though she's clearly got heel tendencies. The crowd doesn't care. I think it has something to do with just she's new, she's fresh. She does have a lot of athletic ability. She, which I'm glad was brought up, was part of the Olympic team, or was a part, or almost made the Olympic team in gymnastics. I couldn't get exactly, but she was involved in some kind of Olympic gymnastic team, and that's pretty damn impressive. So that's her skills certainly have translated in the ring on that one. So all of that, you put that all together, even though she's a heel and the crowd is supporting her, and you heard the crowd reaction for her, very positive. She gets the victory over Naomi, a returning Naomi, and she shines. And that's a big victory over someone like Naomi. But here's the problem. Naomi is not an enhancement talent. Naomi is an established veteran at this point. Naomi has had almost nothing to say and has had almost no victories since she returned. See, like, that's the problem. I feel like Naomi should be replaced with someone else. Now, who that someone else is, I don't know off the top of my head. I just have a problem with a returning star who hasn't been with the company in 18 months that the fans love is being used essentially as a glorified enhancement talent. Now, Naomi's not being squashed. It's not a 2-minute match, but it feels like she deserves better. It feels like Naomi deserves more momentum, at least mic time, something. So now this could just be until WrestleMania, and then after WrestleMania, she's, challenging for the women's championship, the WWE Women's Championship. But I'm not so sure either on that front, because it's Bayley who's going to win, and Naomi is not going to, turn heel. So I don't know. I don't know what the plans are for Naomi, but so far, not so good. I mean, you could also, but if you're looking at this through a positive prism, and you're looking at the silver lining, she's on TV. Right? She's on TV. That's the first step, right? And she's getting matches, and for women's matches, 9 minutes is it's an average, I'd say average match, and which also is a problem in itself that we've just accepted that. But I do think Naomi deserves better. I'm not liking her losing match after match and then also not getting mic time. Not a good combination. It's a perfect combination if you want to cool the character off and have the fans' interest in the character chip away melt away rather, little by little. But it's not a good one if you're at least trying to keep her relevant in the minds of fans. I'm not saying her career's in danger in any sense of the imagination, but I'm saying it's just she has zero momentum, and she's I think a Hall of Famer in the women's division, and they're treating her kind of like, hey, thanks for coming back. Can you take a pinfall every week? By the way, we're not going to give you any mic time, so your character development's not going to happen either. But we'll see after WrestleMania. That kind of feels like the message. At the same time, Tiffany Stratton getting a big victory, so there's a balance here. It just depends on your perspective whether that benefit outweighs the negative of having Naomi kind of get beaten time after time with no mic time. All right, Braun Breaker versus Zion Quinn. I don't know what to say about this. 6 seconds, spear, and goodnight the lights. 1, 2, 3. Fine. Okay. I mean, how do I analyze this match? I can't, other than to say Braun Breaker is just being pushed as a monster. And hey, he is a big dude. If you've seen his work in NXT, it has improved over the last couple of years, especially. His confidence has increased. He feels like he understands who and what he is. But does that translate well to the main roster over a long period of time? We'll see. He still had very limited interaction with the on-screen talent. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes on. But him beating a true enhancement talent, I mean, I've got nothing to say about that other than cool. Okay. All right. So let's go on here. Legado del Fantasma had a video that aired with Santos addressing Angel, Humberto, and Elektra, and footage aired of Rey Mysterio being taken out. And then we get Santos Escobar versus Carlito in a street fight. The crowd was really into this, which made me really happy for Carlito and Santos. They did a nice job here of the video package showing us why we should care about Santos and Carlito, and of course Rey, which we get a little bit later. And crowd, of course, is into tables, as they are every single show that WWE does. But Carlito did a nice job. The apple was over. I think "We Want Apples" was a chant. Carlito finally got the apple. I think the apple got a bigger pop than he did, and I don't think that's being over dramatic. But Carlito still gets a nice reaction. He's a fun legacy talent to keep in your back pocket. He fits in with the storyline very well. And Carlito, I think, is a guy you want to keep around for a little while, as long as he can go in the ring. I mean, I think he's a talent that can help the company, help the brand. He's got a lot of experience. He has been in more places than WWE, which I think is a good thing. He can share that knowledge with other talent. And he fits in with the LWO storyline and Legado del Fantasma. He fits it all. He fits all just perfectly. He's a perfect piece to the puzzle. Now, the ending of this match was interesting, and one that is being overlooked by a lot of people is that we got a beatdown of Carlito, but Rey Mysterio came out. His music hits, and he's using crutches, and the LDF members were laughing at him. They go after him on the ramp, but Rey was feigning the injury, that he was still injured anyway, and he hit them with a crutch and made his way to the ring, and Escobar was yelling at Mysterio and took a swing at him, but Mysterio ducked it. Carlito spat the apple in Escobar's face and then put him in a position for a 619. He finally hit the 619 on Escobar, who was put through a table by Carlito, and Carlito gets the victory. A fun return for Rey. I could do without the gray beard. I feel like that aged him 68 years. I know that, look, it's personal preference here. I understand. I'm not used to seeing Rey Mysterio with a beard of any sort, much less one that's got a lot, 80% gray hair. Hey, not my thing. Only because I don't like to think of Rey Mysterio as an old man, even though he's how old is Rey? He's got to be like 50, So I just, to me, I don't need to see it, but if he wants to do it, obviously it is what it is. However, this was a fun return and one that got a really good pop. I'd like to ask somebody that was in attendance, ranking Rey Mysterio's return pop, would you argue that that was the second biggest pop of the night next to The Rock? Sounded like it. So I was excited for Rey. I did not think that return was happening quite yet, but I was pleasantly surprised. And it looks like it's a setup for Rey versus Escobar at WrestleMania, or more likely, probably a tag team match with LDF versus the LWO. That sounds to me more likely, and maybe Dominic gets involved and screws over his dad again or something. I don't know. All right. Again, fun. With Rey Mysterio coming back. Now, there was some angst among even prominent podcasters about the unprotected chair shots to the head lately that have been happening. And I will say that, okay, I don't really talk about chair shots to the head too much. I will happily say I am a big fan of chair shots to the head. However, if they can somehow be done safely, that's the little key here. I don't want, and I would never want to sacrifice a wrestler's health and well-being for my sadistic wants and needs of chair shots to the skull. But you cannot tell me as a wrestling fan that you don't miss that. Just like you don't miss blood occasionally. Chair shots, when someone gets a chair, you know exactly how they're going to hit that person. It's going to be in the back, in the gut, in the back, in the gut. Like, you know exactly the formation of it. And it's for the safety of the wrestlers, and great. But if they can somehow, and I don't know how this is possible, create a chair that's worked, and I think, honestly, a lot of the chairs were worked in the late 90s, because when you look at the chairs that were bent across the skulls of literally like dozens and dozens of guys, if you got a real steel chair, that wouldn't dent it wouldn't, on your skull even, it wouldn't even make a fist-sized dent. I mean, it just wouldn't. Steel chairs, if you go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, go to your hardware section. They sell them. And you tell me, you pick up a steel chair, and you tell me, if you hit somebody with that, if you think it would bend the way that the chairs used to bend, it would not. So there was some kind of worked chairs going on in the 90s. However, they probably still hurt like hell. And if they cause concussions, then I still don't want it. But I guess my point is, let me get this across very clearly before somebody sends me an email that, you know, how terrible of a person I am that I want to see chair shots to the skull. I know my goal is not realistic, but if it's possible, I want chair shots to the skull that are safe, that do not cause any kind of damage to your brain. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. So I don't know if it's a bit of an opposing goal. It's like saying, hey, I want to get hit by a train, but I don't want to die. You know, like, I want to jump in a pool, but I don't want to get wet. A bit of a conflict of interest there. So I know what I'm asking for, but I guess there's just part of me that wants it. But obviously, I'm not sick enough to say, hey, let's just screw their safety, screw their well-being, screw the concussions. Let's just do it. Of course not. But back to what's happening here. What chair shots to the head are we talking about that I've heard people talk about? I mean, is it the one in this match with was it the trash can, and then there were somebody was hitting the other person with the trash can, and was it Carlito doing it to Santos with the trash can? But he had the trash can over him. Now, I'm imagining too that Santos inside the trash can was holding up his hands so that he wouldn't be hit on the head, even when Carlito was whacking the trash can. So that's obviously a safe spot. You can easily make that a safe spot. So I don't know, what other chair shots to the head are we talking about? I may have missed them. But LA Knight, by the way, was carrying a chair around all night that had been destroyed. At least the seat part of it, the back support part of it was all mangled. And he was on a hunt for AJ Styles. He never found him. And he told Nick Aldis that he doesn't care where he needs to find him, if it's at home, wherever, and that he's going to take things into his own hands. And since Nick Aldis asked him not to be there that night, that's what he's going to do. All right. We then get, let's see, Randy Orton and Austin Theory, Kevin Owens on commentary. And Kevin Owens was fun on commentary. We should just have Kevin Owens on commentary just by default. He's really good. And this match was also 9 minutes. Randy Orton beats Austin Theory with an RKO. And after the match, Waller attacks Orton. Owens runs in, hits a stunner on Theory, which he sold like, he was shot. Like, Stone Cold stunned him at WrestleMania 38, which was always fun. And then Orton hit Waller with an RKO. Orton then and Owens bump fists, and Orton celebrates on the ropes. And that was kind of the end of the show. But it was reminded to us that Logan Paul is also going to be on next week's show. So Orton and Paul are likely going to have some kind of interaction for sure. And I think that's going to be a good pairing. I mean, thinking about what Orton is capable of and what Logan Paul is willing to do to his body, and really just the athleticism he possesses, it's going to be a really good combination, I think, for WrestleMania for Orton and Paul. Now, is anything on the line? Does Orton actually capture the United States Championship? That'd be interesting. I would imagine no, because of Orton in this stage of his career, but maybe that's the fun of it, is Orton is U.S. champion? What? That actually, I mean, I'm intrigued by that. But based on right now, if the match was tomorrow, I'd say no, it's still probably Paul. However, at this rate, you would think too that, Orton will be around more than Logan Paul. But really, Orton is very much, you can tell with Randy Orton, he's very calculated on the number of bumps he takes because he knows he has only so many bumps left in the tank at his age. You can just tell. I mean, when I watch Orton wrestle now, he's still smooth as butter. And I mean, I'm not saying he's lost a step, but I wince at when he takes bumps because I know that that's just one less bump he's going to take before his career's over. I don't know why I think that way when I see Orton now. Maybe he's just done such a great job of selling his back and how he just seems like he's in pain all the time, but maybe he's really not. It's just maybe a good sell job. But I see Orton now as, take that bump right out of his, out of his bag. That one's used. Yep, there's another one, And I just look at Randy Orton bumps now as, and I'm sure he does too. How can he not? My God, the dude, how many bumps has he taken in his career? And his back surgery most recently. So I think that, we should be appreciative of Randy Orton while he's here. But my point was going to be that Randy Orton is U.S. champion. He may appear as much as Logan Paul does. So it may be kind of par for the course for championship appearances or champion appearances. So, all right, let's get to Monday Night Raw as we run down that show really quickly here. We got, let's see, the first match anyway, with Shinsuke versus Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn beats Shinsuke in 15 minutes, hopefully getting Sami Zayn back on the winning side of things. We don't know if Sami Zayn's going to be the one to challenge Gunther. That's the big question on Raw, that hopefully this week, with only a month out from Mania, we get more answers on who Gunther's going to face. And I think the less answers we have, the more it points to multi-man match, whereas Orton and Paul look like it's going to be a one-on-one. The IC could be the one with the multi-person match. And then you could have Gunther drop the belt without even ever being pinned. And you kind of are able to hit two birds with one stone here. Gunther can claim he was never pinned or submitted to lose the belt. And you also have somebody capture the belt. It's a big moment. Gunther losing after his historic reign is a big deal. And then you also, kind of 3 for 3 here, are able to move Gunther into a higher position if you want to. Move him into the world title position. If you do. You could have him still kick around the IC and challenge rematch after rematch, and maybe he loses there, but I think Gunther losing should be a big moment when he's finally pinned, and I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. I mean, Gunther is a I don't think we realize how big of a part of WWE he is right now. So that's how I think it's going to pan out. But I think it's going to be a multi-person match based on what I'm seeing. All right. Then we get Raquel Rodriguez and Chelsea Green. Rodriguez beat Green in a minute and 15 seconds. Chelsea Green continues to be, even again, and I mentioned this in my Raw review, somehow gets more over the more she loses. Now, that formula is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable strategy for success. But if you can capture that and you're able to capitalize on somehow gaining momentum even as you lose, that's the gold, man. That's a very rare trait that you have as a talent. But the fans gravitate towards Chelsea, and I understand why. I totally get it. Now, we did get the Gunther segment. We got Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods versus Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci in a street fight. This one was a lot of fun. I mean, as I mentioned on the Raw review, I really do enjoy the New Day when they're not talking. When they're in the ring, they're fun to watch. When they're talking, it's like I'm looking at a different group. So in the ring, this is the New Day I like, if I dare say that, or at least can tolerate, is in the ring, doing what they do, kicking ass. I don't need bootios. I don't need trumpets. I don't need fart jokes. I don't need any of that. I don't need any of the sophomoric humor that they have presented to us for the last 9 years. I need them in a more serious capacity. And that's what they showed us this past week with Imperium. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. And they lost clean to Imperium. So that's a big, dare I say, statement victory for Imperium, who I think also need a little bit of momentum too. Okay, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark versus Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark beat Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae in just under 3 minutes. Crowd was flat. And I don't know much more to say about it, other than this was very much a check the box type of match for the company of, hey, see, we have tag team wrestling. We had women's tag team wrestling on the show. See, that's all this was. Sorry, that's what it was. All right, Drew McIntyre continues to be brilliant on the mic, and loved everything he had to say about, he burst his eardrum during the match at the Elimination Chamber, and he said the doctor told him he might not be able to make WrestleMania, and then he looked at the doctor and he said, "Who do you think I am, CM Punk?" It's just awesome. And then he sits down in the cross-legged position. Oh, McIntyre is something special right now. God, he's something special right now. And I love everything he has to say. He also had a fight backstage with Jay. They're going to have a match this coming Monday night, I believe. I believe tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this. I believe they're having a match. Also, Becky Lynch and Nia Jax are going to have a match on Monday night. I think that one's clearly going Becky's way. You can't have a challenger for the women's world title lose clean to somebody that's not challenging for the title towards WrestleMania. You just can't do it. I know Nia did beat Becky clean a couple of months ago, or not a couple months, maybe it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago, whatever. So anyway, and that's fine because you were building Nia at the time to face Rhea. Now it's time for Nia to return the favor and for Becky to get a big victory over Nia Jax to look like she's building some kind of momentum towards Rhea Ripley. So look for that on Monday night, but still enjoying Nia Jax. I really am. She has been a very nice surprise for WWE, specifically the women's side of things over the last couple months. Now, Rollins is still kissing Cody's ass and saying that, he's going to be his protection, but also telling Drew, hey, may the best man win. And he wasn't talked out of his decision to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So I think that, to me, McIntyre right now is in an interesting place with Cody and with Seth Rollins, because if Seth Rollins gets beat down by Drew, what does Cody do? Does Cody run to Drew's aid? So I think there is a good chance that Drew could end up being the reason the Bloodline wins at WrestleMania in the tag team match. So I think you should look for Drew to be that X factor on the outside of the ring or interfering in that tag team match at WrestleMania in a month. Nia Jax and Liv Morgan. Nia Jax beat Liv Morgan by DQ in 8 minutes and 15 seconds, but that's because the DQ came with Becky Lynch, who came in and took out Nia Jax. So Liv Morgan does not lose clean here, but it's really about Becky and Nia. And then we get Cody Rhodes versus Grayson Waller. And this ended in 8 minutes. And it wasn't really about the match itself. You knew Cody was going to beat Grayson Waller, and he did. And this was more about Heyman coming out and insulting Cody about getting Will Smith across the face. And he told Cody to take The Rock's name out of his friggin' mouth. And Cody said he's done being nice. He's done playing the nice guy, and he beat down the suspended cops that Paul Heyman had hired and threw them outside. And then, we had Paul Heyman have 2 cell phones to call The Rock and to call Roman. Now, again, where he came 2 cell phones, why he needs 2 cell phones, why he doesn't realize you can have 2 calls at once. I don't know. All of those things are really over. I know it's overthinking. It's more for presentation that Paul Heyman is now calling The Rock and calling Roman Reigns. I understand the effect of it, but he could have just said, hey, call Roman Reigns and The Rock. Now, is that functionality available on an iPhone? I don't think so, but you could have accomplished it with one phone. I don't know. I'm sure some of you out there are like, you guys, what are you focusing on that for? It's just a silly thing. It's a silly thing I noticed. I'm not going to lose my mind over it. But, all right. So that was pretty much it for Raw. And, I think this Monday night, they're really going to start kicking it into full gear here as we have 4 weeks until WrestleMania, which means they got to start really kicking ass and really start putting matches on the card, really start building things. It's the time for kind of games and floundering around are over. It's time to establish the matches and then start the programs if you haven't already and get things rolling. Get that card filled up for those 2 nights of WrestleMania. And I think they'll start to do that this coming Monday. So, all right. That'll do it for my week in review, everybody. I will be back tomorrow night with Anthony DeMarco to discuss the current state of WWE. And I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. Sometimes we don't know what we're going to talk about until we press record. I mean, seriously. Until we actually talk to each other. And then, I sometimes say, hey, what do you want to talk about? No pun intended. We figure it out sometimes on the spot. But it sounds like we're prepared. But we're not prepared at all. We just wing it. I'm not even kidding. Which sometimes translates into the best conversation. So that format's working. I think we'll continue it. And then on Tuesday, it's a Raw review. And Wednesday's the mailbag. Now, I do have somebody else here that did send in an email. And I do want to we have a few emails. Now, Anthony C., I'll just say your full name because we'll probably be chatting on this show soon. Anthony Capella, who hates everything I have to say, who became a patron, ironically enough, hates everything I have to say, but also at the same time gives me money to hear everything that I have to say that he hates, which is fun to hear. Wants to come on the show. I think he bumped his tier up on Patreon enough so that he can come on and debate me on some things. So that'll be coming in short order, I hope. We'll be chatting about things that, he always says I focus on the stupid stuff and whatever. So that'll be fun. So look for that. But also, I did get an email from, let's see here. I did get an email from King Scully, and I didn't answer it. Along with there's other emails I didn't answer either. Okay, there's a few that I just didn't get to on the mailbag, so I want to just answer King Scully's, and then we'll wrap it up and call it a night here. And it's relevant, so let's go. Let's see. He says that first, I hope you get better, Matt, and escape the horrible lurgy. I don't know what lurgy is. I mean, you guys are, I don't know what this is. Is this, I feel like we have a lot of UK listeners. There's a lot of terms that you guys say that I have no clue what it means. None. I mean, I know what a jumper is. It's a sweater. Now, why you guys call it a jumper, why we call it a sweater, you could break that down. I don't know, but that's like the only thing I understand when it comes to translating things. Anyway, second, let's get on with it. Elimination Chamber, the most predictable PLE ever. Yawn. The event itself was decent. The Women's Chamber, hats off to Tiffany Stratton, by far the most entertaining woman in that match. As we all know, it was obvious that the stale man, Becky Lynch, was going to win. It should have been Bianca. I agree. They teased it last year. I thought they were going to get Rhea versus Bianca at SummerSlam, and we didn't. WrestleMania 40 was perfect, though. I'm not Bianca or Belair's biggest fan. I'm not really a fan. But it would have been a lot more entertaining to see Miss look where I wear my hat backwards get a predictable title shot. We already know Rhea will win. It's a very good chance. I don't think really anybody, I shouldn't say that. Most people are interested in seeing Becky Lynch have another title reign. See, we already know what that looks like. There's not a groundswell of support for, oh my God, I need to see Becky with the belt again. And then there's nobody I know, at least, I shouldn't say that. I know a few people. When I take the temperature of the fans, I don't get that sense. The general sense. Okay. The tag team title match was very entertaining, and they put on a clinic. My fellow Brummie from Birmingham, England, Pete Dunne and Dudley's own Tyler Bate, put in a great challenge, and it could have gone either way. But once again, as I knew, the Judgment Day prevailed. Was surprised to not see R-Truth, though. Cody and Seth. Cody challenging The Rock looks like he should be scared. It's not very realistic, is it? It's like Floyd Mayweather challenging Mike Tyson to a fight. Then Seth chimes in when he should be concerned about defending his own damn title and says, once again, I will be your shield. So basically, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao want to fight Tyson and Evander Holyfield. They stomp on Theory, though. He sold it brilliantly. Yes. I think that's a good analogy. But the difference is it's pro wrestling. You know, so you can get by the size difference pretty quickly. But it's a good boxing kind of equivalent. I think that's a good one. Drew won like we knew he would. He deserves it, though. He's been the class of the last couple months or so. Really enjoy his promos, and his matches are always spot on. It was a decent match, and some of the clips that come out with Logan Paul, check out the clip after he was eliminated, claiming he couldn't move. I think I did see that. We knew Rhea Bloody Ripley would win, and rightfully so. That is another victory I'm happy about. Nia Jax definitely did her part. Also, last thing, if you need help with the bail bag, I'm willing to oblige. Give me a message. Get well soon. Well, thank you, King Scully. I mean, there may be a point in time where, I've already reached it. What am I talking about? I just reached it this past week where there were emails I couldn't get to. I can't. There's just not enough time, and it's an overwhelming amount of response, which I appreciate. So that's not to discourage you guys from sending them in. I will do my best, and those that are patrons will guarantee to be on the show. You don't have to. If you're a patron and you send me an email, you will be on the show. But if you're not and you send an email, there's a good chance it'll be on the show, but not guaranteed. So, alrighty. Well, I think that'll do it for me right now. I'll be back tomorrow night with the current state of WWE, and then we're off to the races from there, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, and yes, I will talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.